Hello and welcome to the Mars Day for July the 1st, 2025. This Mars Day is going to be a little bit different because I'm offering it to all of the tiers on the Patreon, including the free tier. And the reason is Patreon's weird. And if you aren't familiar with Patreon, you may not know that I offer sliding scale tiers. And in those sliding scale tiers, it goes from like $3.33 a month up to $17.17 a month. So pay what you can afford, but that's where you get the exclusives that I offer in this space. So the Mars days every week where we talk about the astrology of the week ahead, we pull some tarot, I offer some exclusives here and just regular conversation. It's a place for you to ask your questions, etc. So if you're in the free tier, hi and welcome. And also, all of the goodies are in the paid sliding scale tiers. And again, the entry level for that is $3.33 a month. You can cancel anytime, there's no contracts, etc. And you get stuff like this. Sometimes I do written posts, sometimes I do video posts, but yeah, and it's just a place where we can hang out and talk about astrology and tarot and spirituality and death and all of the realms in which I find myself. And so yeah, welcome on whatever tier you're on. If you want to hang out on the free tier, that's great. Every once in a while, when I get a burst of energy, sometimes I put stuff there for the free tier. But I'm offering this to you today as a glimpse into what these conversations look like. And it's not a session setting. So if you've had sessions with me, I'm in a very different space in the Patreon. It's my favorite place on the internet. It's the virtual babe space. And it's really where I just come and I hang out and I info dump and I ask you to share your wisdom if you want to and connect with others, etc. So it's a different space than one-on-one sessions with me or workshops with me, but there are workshops also available in the Patreon space. So there's a lot, like over 550 posts on the Patreon now. So yeah, so join us there in the paid tiers if you want that kind of access. And if you don't, that's okay too. Welcome to a little preview, sneak peek, take a look into what Mars days can look like. So we're starting July 2025. And July, if you've been with me here or anywhere for a while, you know that I've been talking about 2025 for a long time. We just, specifically in the United States, we have a lot happening collectively. There's a lot happening with the United States Sibley chart, which is when the United States was founded as the United States, the Declaration of Independence, etc. And so, under that chart, we just finished up the Pluto return of the United States. We're coming into the Uranus return of the United States, and there's a lot to say in that. And I've talked about it a lot previously here in the space, and I'll talk about it more as we move forward. But the reason that I'm mentioning it here now today is because in July of 2025, Uranus makes its first ingress into Gemini. It's been in Taurus since 2017/2018. It was going back and forth. And then since 2018, it's been full time in Taurus until this month. On the 7th of July, Uranus will shift into Gemini. And that's a big shift collectively. And we'll talk about it. It happens officially at the end. So next week, we'll be talking about that a lot more. But that's one of the highlights of the summer. It's one of the highlights of 2025. And so I just want to note it as we come into the month of July. That's one of the big things that we're watching, that ingress of Uranus into Gemini on the 7th. We also have a Capricorn full moon and a Leo new moon. Both of those look really potent. The Capricorn full moon is on the 10th. The Leo new moon is on the 24th. We're going to talk about those. So remember, each week in the Mars days, we talk about the next 7 days, Tuesday to Monday, of the astrology. You also get access to my Patreon only Instagram, which is at the Autistic Astrologer. So on there, I list, I put different things. I put the tarot cards that we pull here each week. I also put the transits that we're going to track each month, and that was posted last night. So the transits of the month are up. So we have our lunations of the week. We have of the month. We have Uranus moving into Gemini. We have our two lunations, the Capricorn full moon and the Leo new moon. And then we also have four planets, four including Chiron, stationing retrograde in July. And what that means is some planets are pausing, right? They're stopping, they're slowing down. And so there's been a lot of stuff happening collectively, and maybe you feel this way in your personal life as well. Things have been going pretty quickly. There's been some movement happening. All the planets have been moving forward for a couple months now. And in July, that kind of comes to a halt, and there's some pullback, if you will, to like pause and integrate and move back into something or maybe revisit something again. Those planets are Neptune, Saturn, Mercury, and Chiron. So, yes, Mercury retrograde starts this month. Actually, yesterday on the 30th of June, Mercury entered its pre-retrograde shadow phase. And so that's when we start the Mercury retrograde official, right? So the pre-retrograde marks the point where Mercury is going to come back to during its retrograde. And so mercurial things that come up starting at the pre-retrograde phase, which would have been again yesterday, June 30th, mercurial things that come up under this time from now until the 17th when Mercury stations retrograde. It's like a little preview or trailer into what Mercury might be coming back over during its retrograde. So mercurial stuff is communication, conversations, our mental health, our friendships, our surroundings, bicycles, and there's Mercury is, our friendships. It's our relationships that aren't like super intimate, which would be Venus's realm. But Mercury is like siblings and aunts and uncles and cousins and friends and the people in your neighborhood. It is your neighborhood. It's your surroundings. It's the place. It's our habits, our daily rituals and habits. It's the church that we attend and our favorite grocery store, our favorite convenience store. Like that's all very mercurial stuff, right? It's the day-to-day hub and bub of life. And so, that includes short travel, that includes technology, emails, our phones, that kind of stuff is all mercurial realm. And so, as we enter into the pre-retrograde phase, which is going to again take us all the way through the beginning of July into the 17th and 18th when Mercury is stationing retrograde, and then it'll pause at 15 degrees of Leo and it'll come all the way back to 4 degrees of Leo. That's the chunk of space in your chart. So finding the Leo house of your chart will help you understand what Mercury is reviewing or reflecting upon or integrating or reimagining, right? When we talk about retrogrades, especially Mercury retrograde, we talk about all those re's, right? The rule of re's: redo, rethink, replan, re-excavate, like reimagine, all of these re-words because we're going back. So we're reflecting or we're retracing our steps in some kind of thing. So again, this is happening in the Leo part of the chart, specifically 4 degrees to 15 degrees of Leo. And so that part of your chart is being activated. So you would take that part of your chart, you would find the house that Leo is in, 4 degrees, 15 degrees, see if you have any planets there. And that would all layer on what this Mercury retrograde might look like for you. And so if that's too much for you, that's totally okay. Just know that we're in the pre-retro shade of Mercury, which means back up your files. It means pay attention to your communication. Don't process with people that you don't trust, like all of those Mercury things, and slow down. The thing about Mercury in retrograde is we continue to do mercurial things as if everything's normal. But this is normal. This every 3 month pause to reflect and to integrate or to release, another reword, to release what is no longer needed, and then to integrate or process through any of the stuff that we've been mercurially processing for the last 3 months since the last retrograde. Okay, so there's a lot of retrograde stuff that we could talk about, and we'll talk about a lot more as we go through July and get closer and closer to that actual retrograde station, which is on the 17th of July. The Mercury retrograde this year takes us all the way until August the 11th, where Mercury will station direct again at 4 degrees of Leo, and then move back through its post-shadow phase through the middle of August. And so Mercury's doing its thing. We're in it now. And so it's just about paying attention and being aware of your mercurial things. What is it? What habits are showing up for you that you're ready to release or let go of to start something new or kind of like shift in some kind of way or go back over anything that you're starting now might take a little bit longer because we're in that retrograde phase, so Mercury's going to come back. But maybe that's exactly what's needed for the project. And so, yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we can go into, and I would ramble and ramble and ramble forever about this if I don't stop myself. So, who's stopping? But Mercury retrograde is another big thing about this month of July 2025. And we're in it but with that pre-retrograde phase starting yesterday, June 30th. So we also have Chiron, Saturn, and Neptune stationing retrograde in July. And the big ones that I'm looking at are Saturn and Neptune here. Not so much Chiron. Chiron, the outer planets all station retrograde significantly. And when they station, their energies are stronger. But I'm looking at Neptune and Saturn here, these stations. Neptune stations on July 4th, and Saturn stations on July 12th. And they're both stationing for the first time in Aries. And so when a planet stations for the first time in any zodiac sign, it can give us an idea of what that long-term transit's going to be like. So Saturn's going to be moving through the Aries part of the chart for the next 3-ish years, 2.5, 3 years. And so this is the first station that we're going to get to really get a feel of what is being kicked up at that place, right? Neptune, same thing. So it's the first time that it's going to station in Aries for the next 13 or 14 years that it's going to be in Aries. And so Neptune is a longer one because it's a planet that moves slower. So it's going to spend 13 to 14 years in Aries. And so this is the first of 13 or 14 stations in the Aries part of your chart that Neptune's going to do. So just paying attention again to your personal life, but also collectively what's happening around these stations can give us an idea of what is processing, or it's kind of like the preview or the trailer. It can give us an idea of what topics may be discussed while these planets are transiting that spot of the chart. Again, collectively and personally. Here in the Mars days, we talk about the collective energies, but each of us are experiencing those based on how they're hitting our chart. And so, not all of it is going to hit you specifically, but it's going to hit the people in your energy field. You're going to see it playing out in the collective. And so that's what we talk about here in the Mars days. And then through that time, I also give you opportunities to check into what that might mean for you in a personal level. But your personal transits are always going to outrank the mundane collective transits that we talk about here. So again, layers and nuance. Astrology is a lot. That's why all of us aren't astrologers. But what I hope to do here in this space is offer you a little bit of a foot in the door into astrology so that you can hear the language, you can be in the energy, you can ask your questions, you can connect with other people in the comments, in the chats, etc. And just kind of like get into the world of astrology because I see it as a universal tool that has really been put behind a huge paywall of privilege. And I don't love it. So I like to kind of make it a little more accessible. So that's what I try to do here. So ask your questions, share your wisdom, let it kind of wash over you, and don't get stuck on knowing every single word or every single detail, unless you're wanting to be an astrologer. And then yes, you want to know every single word and learn every single thing. But that's not going to be all of you. It's not going to be most of you. And so just allowing it to wash over you and take what resonates, pick from it, pick it apart, have your own process, allow your intuition and your subconscious and your energy to move you in the direction that is aligned for you, which is going to be different for each of us. So again, just releasing the pressure to like capture everything that I'm saying, understand everything that I'm saying, start exactly where you are, and that's the perfect place to be. So, and as always, ask your questions. Okay. So retrogrades, we talked about lunations. We have some ingresses, which we talked about with Uranus and Gemini. We also, Venus in July is moving pretty quickly. And so it's going to move into Gemini on July 4th, out of Taurus into Gemini on July 4th. And then it's going to zoom through Gemini. And on the 30th of July, it's going to move into Cancer. So those are our ingresses. And then the sun, of course, our ticking time, the sun will move into Leo as it always does towards the end of July. This month or this year, it moves on the 22nd from Cancer into Leo. And so those are our shifts. And then we have all of the aspects that happen in the middle of it. And we're going to talk about it because there's a lot. But this is, the first Mars day of each month, I try to go into kind of an overview of what the month is going to look like. And then we dig in each month or each week as we come in and go through it on Tuesdays. But that's kind of the overview of July. There's some hot spots, of course, but because the planets are slowing down, and because of where they're stationing, where they're transiting in the sky in the zodiac, there's not a ton of transits this month. That doesn't mean that there's not a lot going on because the transits that are happening are pretty potent. Um, but it does mean that there's not as much busyness happening as maybe we felt in June. And so there's a halting, a slowing down, not only with the planets that are preparing to station retrograde, but also because there's not as many aspects happening specifically in the middle part of the month, from about the 8th until about the 17th. There's not a ton of transits happening, but we're still feeling a lot of what the outer planets are doing. So we're going to look at the charts and break it down more and more and more. There is definite hot spots as we move through the month that we'll talk about. As planets move into Leo, they're hitting that opposition to Pluto, which is difficult. Uranus is at the anaretic degree, 29 degrees, and then it shifts into Gemini, and that's a whole new energy. And if you've been here for a while or with me for a while, we've been working for years on tools of supporting your nervous system, right? And the reason is this is one of the transits that I was looking at in the future. And I was saying, oh, this energy feels chaotic. It feels like a lot of change. It feels very ungrounded. It feels very fast. And scattered a little bit and busy and innovative and just it's a lot. And so one of the ways I've been working at supporting the nervous system is looking at it through the lens of increasing my capacity for change and increasing my capacity to be in the unknown, right? Because we're really in that pretty steadily, collectively. And we have been for a while and will continue to be for a little bit. We're in that birth canal, right? And so there's this unknown, there's the change that's happening, there's disruptions, it's overwhelming. And Uranus, the planet of our nervous system, the planet of our higher mind, and the networks, the systems that keep us on board here in the human body, is ruled by Uranus, and it's going into the mutable air sign of Gemini, which is quick, it's fast, it likes to disperse energy, it likes to get the energy and then like scatter it all over the place. And so I imagine for a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of downloads, a lot of new information, a lot of shifting of the mind. And in order to process and be in that space, it's really important to resource the nervous system. And so we have a lot of tools here on the Patreon, breath work, there's, energy work, bubbles, there's all kinds of stuff that we talk about here in this space. And you're always welcome to ask your questions or, request something from me. There's always tools that I have forgotten about that I can share. So let me know how to support you on that journey. It's my honor and privilege and the whole point of this space. So let me know what that looks like for you and how I can support you. But that Uranus shift into Gemini really quickens the pace of the collective and just the general vibes and energy. And so that's been one of the things that I've been looking at for years, and cultivating this space around that. Okay. So that's kind of the overview. There is so much more to say. We have Saturn and Neptune coming into their closest little merger conjunction point. They don't hit a full conjunction until February 2026, but this month, July 2025, they get as close as they're going to get until we get to the conjunction in 2026. And so that brings those energies together, right? This is the melting of what is real. right? Like this is that question that I've been asking in this space for a while, like what is real? Are you questioning what is real? When you see a video online, are you able to notice that it's AI? Are you still taking it in? Are you giving AI your information, your knowledge, your wisdom? Like where are you in that process and relationship with AI? What is real as far as propaganda, as far as what's being said in the media outlets, right? Like we've been talking about media literacy here. That's all going to become more important than ever as we move through July and August. Asking like, is this real? I'm to the point where when I'm online, my first assumption, unless it's coming from someone I know and trust, my first assumption is that this is artificial intelligence. This is not real. Let me then do my own research and understanding and process, which yes, takes more time, but it keeps us human. It keeps us connected. It keeps us grounded, right? Because Neptune and Saturn together is the collapse of the illusion or the projection of the illusion. This is where propaganda and cult stuff, we've talked about that here a lot. Um, you know, the question, what is this real? What is real? What is real for me? What is true for me? What is my reality? Becomes more and more important as the planet of reality, Saturn, and the planet of disillusionment, Neptune, come together in the sky and really melt what we thought was real or what maybe we thought was real. Again, this can be personal, this can be collective, it's probably both. And so, as those things come together, that's, just ever important among many, many other things with the Saturn Neptune that we've talked about here and we will continue to. But that they hit their peak right around the 12th through the 20th of this month. But they're close. They station together in Aries. We're feeling that melting of reality, that question of reality, that disillusionment, that popping of the bubble of the dream or the illusion or the thing that was being sold. Now we're starting to see the reality creep in some kind of way. Maybe. And maybe this energy is just taking you, me, or us further into the illusion. And that's just where we are in the collective times. So really finding what's true for you, questioning, being curious, right? Gemini is curious. So when Uranus moves into Gemini, open up to question and be curious about what you're seeing, what you're experiencing, what is being brought forward to you, et cetera, et cetera. So that's happening. We also have Uranus moves in. That's a big one because it's also tied to the United States Uranus return. And historically, when Uranus moves into Gemini for the United States, which most of us here are from the United States or surrounding spaces, Canada, Mexico, and so and what happens in the United States ripples, right? And we know that collectively. And so historically, when Uranus moves into Gemini and the United States starts into their Uranus return, the United States have gone to war, or we have inserted ourselves into war with Uranus moving into Gemini every time. So hopefully this time looks different, right? Because every time planets are doing different things, right? It doesn't look great for where we are. And so my eyes are definitely open. I'm definitely looking at what's happening in all over the world. But this shift of Uranus into Gemini is another escalation or disruption point in the collective energy. And so I'm definitely watching what that looks like. It's also going to activate Trump's chart, and because he's the leader of the United States right now, his chart reflects what we may see here in the United States. And so Uranus coming in, Uranus is the planet of disruption, but it's also the planet of liberation. And so as much as, the Revolutionary War, a lot of the Revolutionary Wars, came with Uranus in Gemini and Pluto in Aquarius, which are both happening right now. And so there's an urge for liberation, and there's a similar urge for control and power. And so we're seeing those two things kind of battle each other. And Gemini is the side of two sides of the same coin. And so as Uranus shifts into Gemini, I will be watching and aware of what has happened historically as this shift happens. And as always, I'm doing my work to show up in different ways because that's the best way for us to help shift the collective energy. And so, so much more to go in with that and to talk about. And many people are talking about this. Astrologers specifically are talking about the history of the astrology that we're coming into, which is why so many astrologers have been talking about 2025 through 2028. Really as a significant time for the country, for the United States and everyone that touches that, which is a lot of people. So I will be right here with you, chatting it through, talking about it, being in it, resourcing ourselves through it, through joy, radical care, community, connection, and our own healing. That then allows us to spread that support and that wisdom out to all the people that we touch. So that's what we do here. We focus on like what we can do in these times because I believe that we were each chosen and born specifically into this time for a reason. So it's just about finding the reason and getting into alignment for that and really building up your own abilities to stand in your own power opposed to giving away your power or hiding shielding yourself and hiding from taking up space or whatever that looks like. And there's a million reasons why we do that, and they're all super valid. And so let me know if I can help support you in any way through this process, because I know it's a lot and we're holding a lot and we're watching a lot all throughout the world. And so that's some of the stuff that I can help you maneuver and hold and be with as we move through this time. So yeah, so Uranus shifts, and as it does, it comes into, it gets closer and closer to that trine to Pluto, which again doesn't become exact until 2026. So if you've been here a while, you know that I've been talking about 2025, and not just me, but many astrologers have been talking about 2025 as like this preview to 2026. Because what's happening is planets are coming into these new signs, and they're shifting and moving things for us in these new signs, bringing us these new awarenesses. And then they retrograde back into their old signs for the end of 2025. And then in 2026, they come back into the new signs and they stay there. And so 2025 is like this moment for us all to like wake up and see what's happening and get the little preview trailer. And then the end of 2025 is like, okay, we got to get our shit together. And then 2026 is like, okay, now we're in it. Now we've had time to go back, get our shit together, finish what we need to do. And now we're in it in 2026. And so yeah, so this summer is very much that preview of this is what's coming in 2026. This is the energy we're going to be in collectively 2026. How do I want to work with that? How do I want to hold that? Do I need to get more tools? Do I need to find more connections? Do I need to, etc., to be able to hold this energy shift that comes full force in 2026? Okay. Was that a lot? Hi, the world's a lot. Welcome to the space. Thank you for being here. Let me know your questions, share your wisdom, share your guidance, whatever you have in the comments, as always, or reach out to me however it feels natural and aligned and supported for you. And I will help provide any resource and support that I can along the way. Always. Let's get into the week ahead. So let's look at the chart. All right. So here's the chart at the moment that I'm recording, 9:12 a.m. in Evanston, Wyoming. It is an Aries rising chart, which means you'll just overlay it. The houses here don't matter. We're just looking at the planets and the signs and the degrees. And so we start the week with the moon finishing out its time in Virgo. It's going to move through Libra and through Scorpio and into Sagittarius as we finish through this week. And so, where the moon touches is where our emotional process is being pulled or illuminated or held in some kind of way. And so those parts of your chart are being touched by the moon this week. We don't have a super ton of transits, but we have some. Let's talk about them. So right now we're really just feeling like the reverberations at the beginning of the week. There's not anything exact that happens until the 4th. So I'll take you through the days just so you have the charts here. So this is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. And so now we get to Friday, the July 4th, and this is kind of a significant day for a lot of different reasons. So the first thing that happens on this day is Venus comes into a conjunction with Uranus at 29 degrees of Taurus. This is the final degree of Taurus, the anaretic degree of Taurus. It is Taurus on Taurus on Taurus. It's super Taurusy. So 29 degrees of Taurus is peak Taurus. And we have Venus, the ruler of Taurus, sitting right there at 29 degrees, right before it leaves to move into Gemini. And so it's soaking up every little bit of Tauresian sensory support and flavor and love and joy and connection that it can. And it's sitting in a conjunction with Uranus, the great disruptor, the great awakener, the liberator. And so there's a lot that can come up here. The invitation is to be so authentic, to be so yourself, to honor your sensory needs, to honor your desires, to call in the resources that you need, right? This 29-degree Taurus conjunction with Venus and Uranus. Venus and Uranus have been meeting in Taurus every year since 2018 when Uranus moved in. Next year, Uranus will be in Gemini. So this is the final time that Venus in her home will meet Uranus there. And it happens at peak Taurus. And so, whatever desires, whatever sensory experiences, whatever pleasure and material realm stuff has been changed for you, again, finding Taurus in your own chart will help you understand the themes of Taurus in your life and what Uranus may have been changing or disrupting or activating in your world since 2017/2018. But Venus here is here to bring you some gift. It's like a parting gift for Uranus moving through this sign. Uranus moving through Taurus. Taurus likes things stable and steady and slow and grounded and practical. And Uranus is not any of that. Uranus is innovative. Uranus is futuristic. Uranus is, just bolts of lightning and change and disruption. And Taurus doesn't love it, right? So the Taurus parts of our chart have really been kind of like uprooted and changed dramatically since 2017 or 2018. And I say 2017 or 2018 because Uranus moved back and forth like it's doing in Gemini and Taurus. It moves into a sign and then it comes back into a sign and then it goes back into the new sign and it stays there. And it did the same thing with Aries and Taurus. So in 2017, it shifted into Taurus, then it retrograded back into Aries, and then in 2018, it came into Taurus and it stayed there until now, 2025/2026, because it'll go back and forth again. So all of that to say, that this week we're feeling Venus moving towards Uranus. This can be disruptive to our relationships. This can be innovative to old problems. This can offer us a glimpse into the future as far as Venusian themes. So we take, in a conjunction, in a merger, we take the two archetypal energies of the planet. So Venus and Uranus here, and we merge them together. And so Venus is our relationships, it's our resources, it's our land, it's our values, it's our self-worth. And Uranus comes and it disrupts in order to liberate or find freedom or break through or move into the future in some kind of way. And so when these two archetypes come together, it's going to depend on your chart, where it's falling in your lived experience of what is being disruptive or what is being innovative or what breakthrough is coming around Venusian themes. Again, finances, resources, love, relationships, intimacy, connection, relating to the world around us, nature, creativity, right? Self-worth, self-value, our values in general, right? That's all Venusian stuff, art and pleasure, right? Justice, all Venus. And so, again, this is going to look differently for each of us, but within those archetypes, what does that bring up for you, right? Even if you don't know your chart, how have relationships been disrupted or changed in your life since 2017 or 2018? How have your finances? How has your self-worth? How has your, et cetera, your creative pleasures, et cetera. And again, and then you find your chart. So for me, Taurus is in the fifth house. And so I built this Patreon, which is a creative community space for me that brings me pleasure and brings me connection and brings me joy, right? That's all fifth house Venus stuff. And when Uranus came in, it completely disrupted what I thought brought me pleasure, which was money. Straight up money. I worked I was labeled and won awards for being a corporate phenom, the youngest, da 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 da, da. Right? I imagined myself with multiple mansions in multiple places of the world not long ago, 2016, 2017. And Uranus came into the fifth house of my chart and said, this doesn't make you happy, actually. This is not pleasure for you. This is not creative. This is not sparking what is here for you. I also have Mars and Jupiter in the fifth house of Taurus for me. So that added on the layer of how I need to learn to embody my wisdom and share my wisdom and to connect with other people and to create and put things out and take up space. That's been a lot of my Uranus and Taurus story. And so when Venus comes through this part of the chart, I look for the gifts and the gratitude of that journey. Sometimes it'll manifest in physical things. Sometimes it manifests in this like knowing in the soul, in my body. But it's going to be different for each of us. If you have it in the first house, maybe this has had to do with your physical self or your identity, how you put yourself out in the world. Maybe if you had this in the seventh, maybe this had to do with your relationships, your intimate partnerships. If it was in the 10th house, maybe you had a big career change, right? So many different ways that this can show up. So finding the Taurus house of your chart, remembering that Uranus started moving in 2017. In 2018, it was there full time until now, 2025, where it'll dip in and then dip back. So, what's that story for you? And what are you asking Venus for this week to bring you? Venus is a benefic planet. It wants to give, it's in its home sign. And so, it wants to offer things that are in alignment. So, trace that if you can and whisper to Venus what it is that you need, what it is that you desire. And when we're in alignment, see how we receive. Right. Also, I have a whole like manifestation for the trauma informed series here. It's a two-part series here on the Patreon. So, if that feels relevant, that is also available. Just type in manifestation in the search bar, and those will come up, or I can send them to you directly. Okay, so that conjunction is happening. Very anoretic, very Taurus, very Venusian with some pizzazz of Uranus. This is fun. This is risky. This is authentic. Like, this is super queer. And so allowing yourself to tap into your most authentic self under this energy and take up space and ask for what you need is a vibe, is a vibe. Ask the universe, ask nature, right? Ask the women and the femmes and the queer folks in your life, for connection and for joy and for pleasure, etc. Indulge a bit. And if you have a tendency for overindulgence, be aware. Venus at the 29th degree of her own sign of Taurus can be overindulgent. It's also risky business. I wouldn't like buy some big purchase that you haven't been thinking about before on this day because it can make you feel like, yeah, just go for it. And then, maybe not the best idea. So if you haven't been thinking about making the big purchase, then I would hold off until after this transit passes, which will be by next week. Okay. So that's the first thing. The next thing is Neptune is stationing at 2 degrees of Aries, 2 degrees, 10 minutes of Aries. It's going to station right there. Not going to talk a ton about it here because we've talked about it before. And the other thing is Venus will then leave Taurus on this day after it comes into that conjunction with Uranus, and it'll shift into Gemini. And that starts the Venus into Gemini, which takes us all the way until the 30th of July. As Venus shifts in, so now we'll move forward. Here's the 5th, nothing exact on the 5th, but then when we get to the 6th, there's some stuff. So on this day, so Venus moves into Gemini, and anytime a planet shifts into a new sign at this point, it's going to have conversations with Saturn, Neptune, and Pluto at the beginning of their degrees. And so Venus is going to start doing that. First, it will hit a sextile to Saturn. That happens early in the morning between Saturday and Sunday. Then it'll hit a sextile to Neptune. And then on the following day, on Moon Day, the 7th, we have Venus in a trine to Pluto. And on that same day, Uranus shifts into Gemini. So Venus and Uranus are still very much together. We're still feeling that Venus-Uranus energy that we were talking about there for a while that happened on the 5th, sorry, the 4th of July. Yes, 4th of July. And so yeah, that it's a radical kind of energy. And so yes, I noticed that it is overlapping with the 4th of July here in the United States, and I imagine we will see that playing out. So that's the astrology of the week ahead. That takes us into Moon Day. And then the following week, we'll come into that Capricorn full moon. So all week, we're building towards the full moon, which means our internal energies are stirring. They're getting bigger. We're having more energy to like do things, which is a positive thing. So, okay. So let me know your thoughts. That's the astrology of the week. Venus conjunction with Uranus, Neptune stations retrograde, Venus shifts into Gemini. Venus sextile Saturn, Venus sextile Neptune, Venus trine Pluto, and Uranus shifts into Gemini. That's our Mars week. Let me know how you're feeling, what your questions are, what you're looking forward to, how you're working with the energy. Um, if you take nothing else, ground into your authenticity this week. Be authentic, take up space, ask for what you need. Um, and show up and honor other people that are doing the same. Um, liberation. Uranus and Venus together at the 29th degree of Taurus. And for me, Taurus is very reflective of Earth, of the planet Earth. And so many things on Earth need liberation. And Uranus, the planet of liberation, Venus, the planet of justice, come together at this very potent degree this week. And so tapping into where we are and are not showing up authentically, where we are and are not showing up collective liberation, for authenticity for everyone, are some things to be with, right? And we'll just keep being with it as we move through. I'm going to pause here because we got to go to part 2, which is the tarot portion. That will not be put out for the free tiers for the public because it's very specifically tailored to the folks that are in the sliding scale tiers of Patreon. So that will be Patreon only. But thank you so much for being here on whatever tier that you're on. I'm sending you so much love, so much grace. Let me know how I can support you as we move through another pivotal month of 2025. We find ourselves in historic times. And I love you. Let me know how I can support you. And have a day, have a week, have a month, and we'll chat soon.